Welcome to our Weather Impact Report, where we take a look at the top weather stories here in Georgia and around the nation. I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss. For the third week in a row, the nation was faced with severe weather that turned deadly. People across the Twin Cities metro were still cleaning up Monday afternoon after Saturday night's severe storms. Those storms knocked out power for around 50,000 customers. One of the hardest hit areas was 40 minutes west of Minneapolis. Audrey Russo is in Waconia with a look at the damage.
We're more than 24 hours out from the tornadoes that came through this area of Waconia, and you can still see a lot of the aftermath of those high winds. There's a lot of debris here on the side of the road. Even more evidence is behind me. You can see this large tree still down on this person's yard. The neighbor has a tree still leaning on the side of their house, a lot of snapped branches. And this is the result of two tornadoes that were EF1 classification, and then two tornadoes that were EF0 classifications. So 4 in total. And again, that comes from the National Weather Service. Now, even though we're seeing a lot of damage like this, Carver and Hennepin County officials tell us no one reported any injuries so far from these storms. We did see some close calls, though. There are a lot of trees landing on houses, in the middle of people's driveways, early Sunday morning. We spoke to one person here in Waconia who did exactly what anyone should do when they get that tornado alert on their phone. He hunkered down in his basement and waited for about 20 minutes. And then when he came back up, he tells us about 100 trees on his property were down.
There's trees down everywhere. And, thank goodness, nothing hit the house and nothing hit the barn. They came close, but nobody was hurt. All the pets are all okay. So it's really just let the cleanup begin.
And again, cleanup could take a while out here. Now, I've reached out to Carver County for more information on the dollar amount of property damage that was done because of these storms. They were still calculating that as of yesterday afternoon. So as soon as I get the updated totals, I'll be sure to bring them to you. I'll send things back to you.
Well, more than 50 people and 2 dogs were rescued from fast rising water at Pocket Wilderness in Saudi Daisy, Tennessee on Sunday. That's just north of Chattanooga. Leela Bowling reports.
Sudden thunderstorms rolled through the region, dumping heavy rainfall, sending 3 creeks into one here at Pocket Wilderness in Saudi Daisy.
The mountainous areas of Saudi Daisy, Walden's, and Signal Mountain have creeks that merged together that come down the mountain to the Pocket Wilderness.
56 people and 2 dogs trapped on the other side of the creek.
After the rain had came, those creeks that merged and came down the mountain, when those people were coming back to cross the creek to go to their vehicle, they were unable to cross. So as a result, that's when the 911 call was made.
Amy Maxwell with Hamilton County EMA says within 20 minutes, several agencies responded, specializing in water rescue.
These specific teams know how to throw the ropes, they know how to establish these roping systems, and they know how to use these specific boats that they use.
2 separate rescue efforts working simultaneously, one working to rescue those trapped on land, and the other working to locate anyone who'd been swept away by the rushing water.
Those kind of situations, the water is so powerful that can just sweep you very quickly.
Maxwell stresses that preparation is key, especially in the summer months when flash flooding can come out of nowhere.
Whether you're driving, you're hiking, or swimming, it's just always good to, when you hear thunder, to go indoors until the storm passes, just for your safety and your family's safety.
We had a very busy week of weather during the last week of June. A fireball, tornadoes, and flooding. One Alabama man says he's lucky to be alive after he was sucked into a storm drain during flooding near Birmingham. Gillian Brooks spoke to him about the whole ordeal.
In 36 years, I never thought I was going to die until that night right there.
The rushing floodwaters in Drew Owen's neighborhood on Friday swept up a handful of his boys' soccer balls. Wanting to be super dad, he ran out to grab them.
Of course, I could not see anything. It was dark, and this was nothing but water. But the ball was somewhere in this area, so I went to step to go get it. But when I did, of course, this ditch is steep. I stumbled into the water. Realizing he was in the ditch, Owen went to get himself out of the chest-deep water. So I turned around, and I guess I turned close to that pipe, and I went to come up, and then it sucked me down feet first.
Owen was swept 100 yards through the pipe under Highway 11 underwater with 2 thoughts in his mind.
First was that my kids weren't going to have a father and my wife wasn't going to have her husband. And then secondly, my dad's funeral was the next day, and I'm like, I'm literally going to die the day before his funeral.
45 seconds later, a tree branch is what saved his life.
I came out, the water was still flowing, but I was able to grab a tree branch. And it wasn't a very big tree branch, and I'm a big guy, so I don't know how it didn't snap. It's a God thing.
Owen's wife, Casey, and their 3 sons realized Drew had been gone for a while. It was 15 minutes later when he was walking back to the house, bruised and scratched, but thankful to be alive.
Can't figure out how it happened or why it happened. We've heard so many stories that did not end up the way his did, and we're just very thankful.
The biggest blessing for Owen is that neither of his 3 kids or any of the neighborhood kids were the ones chasing those soccer balls.
And what if they would have chased that ball and tried to get it? They would have most likely drowned.
The last week of June was also the first heat wave of the summer for the East Coast. And last week, Europe remained in the grip of their first major heat wave. Health warnings were in effect Tuesday in several European Union countries. In France, the National Weather Agency placed several departments under the highest red alert, with Paris region particularly hard hit. Forecasted temperatures were expected to reach 104 degrees in the French capital. Visitors to the Eiffel Tower without tickets were told to postpone their visits because it was closed until Thursday. Italy's health ministry issued heat wave red alerts for 21 cities, including Rome and Milan. Well, since 1990, the Global Change Research Act has mandated a national climate assessment be provided to federal agencies every 4 years. In April, the Trump administration cut funding for future editions of the reports, and the authors for the next assessment were dismissed. As of Tuesday, that information is now offline. Globalchange.gov went offline Monday afternoon. It now shows an error message that reads, "This site can't be reached." The website was home to the government's 5 published reports on how greenhouse gas emissions affect climate and human health, agriculture, and other aspects of the U.S. economy. NOAA is now planning to cut off key satellite weather data at the end of July. It was originally announced that June would be the cutoff. The delay gives forecasters a little more time before losing access to a tool used to track hurricanes. The data comes from a military satellite program that the Defense Department is phasing out. Some meteorologists and public officials are worried, especially during hurricane season, saying losing this data could hurt forecast accuracy just when it's needed most. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, people are still trying to return to normal after Hurricane Helene. A major North Carolina landmark southeast of Asheville reopened on Friday after it was shut down for nearly 9 months. Chimney Rock State Park is now prepared for a scenic comeback. It comes after Helene slammed the park last fall, flooding the entrance and cutting off access to hundreds of thousands of visitors. A new bridge now connects visitors to the park's towering views and rugged trails. Crews also repaired the damaged cliffside elevator, a project officials call a once-in-a-generation milestone. Capacity reached remains limited and trail repairs are still underway, but park leaders say the reopening is a big step for local tourism. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein signed a bill aimed to unlock another $575 million in disaster relief to aid recovery across the state. Well, have you ever seen a dust storm or even been in one? Personally, I have not. Well, they typically occur in the Southwest and more commonly in the West during the spring and the summer. Some people in Nevada were caught in one on Tuesday. Take a look at this video out of Las Vegas. It shows a dust storm covering the Las Vegas Strip Tuesday afternoon. Dust and winds blew more than 60 miles per hour throughout the storm. The area was under dust storm warnings from the National Weather Service at that time. And that wasn't the only problem out west on Tuesday. An extreme heat warning was issued for Phoenix, Arizona, with temperatures reaching 113 degrees. On top of that, the air quality in the area was also an issue. Sarah Robinson has more about the impact.
Harder to breathe, a little bit of a struggle.
If you woke up in the Phoenix metro area Tuesday morning, you did not see a blue sky that's typical for the valley. Instead, you likely saw this, a dusty gray haze blanketing the horizon.
I can get out of breath faster. I've been feeling more lightheaded, like I have to drink so much more water. And like my skin and my allergies have been acting up more than ever this year.
In particular, it's impacting those with lung issues.
I'm asthmatic, so it's really hard to breathe, so I did notice that as well.
It was also an issue for pilots and passengers at Sky Harbor Airport.
My flight is delayed.
The FAA issuing a departure delay advisory for low visibility.
It's sort of akin to standing next to someone that's smoking a cigarette.
Dr. Gary Kirkulis is a physician at Phoenix Children's Hospital. He says in general, it's best to avoid spending time outdoors while pollution levels are this high. According to the Department of Environmental Quality, there are harmful PM10 and PM2.5 particulates from cars, burnt wood, and dust in the air.
It's difficult for us to do the lung to do its job, which is to breathe air to provide our body with oxygen.
Kirkulis says those who struggle most are asthma patients, but older adults with COPD or other lung diseases and heart issues can also experience significant difficulties.
When we have poor air quality days like today, they can very well happen. And in fact, we see that very often with kids coming into the emergency room or the urgent care due to their asthma attacks.
Some of the people we spoke to today worried about more pollution to come on the 4th of July.
Definitely causes some uncertainty about what you're breathing in.
Dangerous heat was not the focus for Georgia this week. In fact, we had a relatively quiet week for weather. But Tuesday, a bizarre cloud had many ATLians worried about looming weather. People around the metro got quite a scare Tuesday night when a huge menacing cloud formation rolled in looking just like a tornado. But luckily, it wasn't what it seemed. No tornado touchdown. Instead, it was a harmless scud cloud that gave everyone a moment to pause and appreciate the power of nature without the danger. Another great reminder to always stay alert when the skies look ominous. Meteorologist Melissa Nord has the science behind it all.
And here's another vantage point of that scary looking cloud over Tourist Park. And of course, it did cause a lot of fears and people thinking, is this actually a tornado? But I'll tell you what, it is not. That scary looking cloud was called a scud cloud. It is not a tornado. Tornadoes are rapidly rotating columns of air. They can cause debris. And it also wasn't a funnel cloud because it didn't have any rotation. So what actually is a scud cloud and how does it form? Well, let's talk about that. A scud cloud forms when we have rising, warm, humid air, and that air cools and condenses and it creates that cloud. Now, the scud cloud itself, also known as a fractus cloud or a panis cloud, does not rotate and it poses no risk of a tornado. So if you see a low-hanging kind of crazy looking cloud, but it's not rotating, it is not a tornado. It is not a funnel cloud. These can happen in summer thunderstorms here across the South. Right before the 4th, severe storms brought major flooding across multiple states. It led to some difficult driving conditions during the busy July 4th travel window. You're looking at the streets of Baltimore. This intersection was completely underwater, leaving some cars stranded. And we are no stranger to pop-up storms bringing heavy rain and other risks during the summer. Most people anticipate the roar of thunder, but can you imagine being in your home and one of those storms brings intense lightning, and your house is struck not once, but twice? Well, that was the reality that one man in Virginia faced on Tuesday.
Advisor, the house was struck by lightning. The house is filling with smoke.
Right around 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon as thunderstorms rolled through Fairfax County.
All right, they had a direct lightning strike with a hole in the roof. I can see where the lightning came in.
Lightning struck along Madrillen Court in Vienna.
It was just incredibly loud.
Andrew was inside his townhome.
I was sitting on my couch. I was in a Zoom meeting for work, and I heard a big lightning strike just before 3 p.m. It definitely scared me. Got up, looked around, didn't think anything of it. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, started to smell smoke and then heard a siren and got out of my house.
He watched as first responders arrived and made a pretty surprising discovery.
We found that actually there were 2 lightning strikes to each end of the townhouse unit.
Battalion Chief David Bentley says 2 lightning strikes like this are pretty rare.
It's incredibly rare to have lightning strikes, especially that close together. Residents in the area reported hearing 5 loud thunder booms in the area, and that's what led us to believe that this building was actually struck twice by separate lightning strikes.
The damage to 2 homes on each end was extensive. A firefighter was taken to the hospital for a hand injury, but luckily none of the homeowners were hurt. Chief Bentley says this is a reminder of how serious storms are.
They're hearing the thunder, they're seeing the lightning. What can they do at home?
Right. Follow the advice of your meteorologist. When you hear a thunderstorm approaching, if you can hear the thunder, you can get hit by lightning. Get inside, get to a secure and safe area.
And if you do believe your home was struck by lightning, evacuate and call 911.
Lightning does play havoc with the electrical systems, with appliances in the homes, with cell phone service. So call, we'll come out and definitely check it out and make sure that your home is safe to be occupied.
On Tuesday night, a historic DeKalb County church was possibly struck by lightning. Redan United Methodist Church stood there for more than 140 years. The roof collapsed, pews were burned, and smoke covered the sanctuary. The church plans to move forward with services.
Then I saw the camera flashed on my church sign, and that's what set my heart off, because I've been here since 1995.
I just wanted to cry. I just could not believe that this was my church and my history just gone.
Church leaders say they've already moved into a nearby building, and worship service was held on Sunday. One of the biggest stories this week was the flooding in Texas, a July 4th that thousands of people will never forget. Powerful overnight rain triggered devastating and deadly flooding in the state. The death toll from the flash floods along the Guadalupe River in Texas continues to rise. Kirk County officials saying Sunday that at least 70 people are dead, including 21 children. 11 children from Camp Mystic remain unaccounted for, along with one camp counselor. Of the 38 adults who were recovered, 18 are awaiting identification. 4 children are also pending identification. During a press conference, Kerrville City Manager Dalton Rice avoided questions on whether emergency alerts were sent about flash floods and why people weren't evacuated. Meanwhile, President Trump signed a major disaster declaration for Kirk County, giving first responders access to necessary resources as they continue for their search and rescue efforts.
This is going to be kind of like in that Western North Carolina deal. The recovery on this, for Helene, you're going to hear about this for a while. This isn't going to be over. Unfortunately, the body counts, the things that you hear about, they're only going to grow. It's only going to get worse from here, I feel like, because right now, the direct efforts for search and rescue, are kind of here coming to an end, but now we've got recovery coming.
Right now, rescue crews are desperately searching for survivors after Texas was pummeled by catastrophic flooding. While much of the water has receded, several areas have been decimated. At least 68 people have died, including those 21 children, and emergency responders fear that number will rise. Mariel Gonzalez is in Texas with details on the destruction.
As heavy rains drenched central Texas, the Guadalupe River rose more than 20 feet, crashing into homes and swallowing roads, leaving people very little time to escape.
We ran back to the room and we started calling 911.
Christina Wilson lives with her fiance, their children, and her mother-in-law near the Guadalupe River in Ingram, Texas. She says water rushed into their home, her fiance punching a window to get his family out. But while trying to save them, he cut open his arm.
He looked at me and the kids and my mother-in-law and he was like, sorry, I'm not going to make it. I love y'all.
Her fiance, Julian Ryan, died. His body recovered hours later. He was 27. Dozens of other people have also lost their lives as the Lone Star State was ravaged by catastrophic flooding that began early Friday. Many are still missing. This man desperately searching for his daughter along the river.
My son and I are walking, and I thought it was a mannequin. It was a little boy, about 8 or 10 years old.
The rushing water devastating entire communities.
I just couldn't believe the destruction.
Federal and local emergency responders working around the clock, searching for survivors.
More than 100 air, water, and ground vehicles are in the field right now working on this search and rescue.
Among the missing are several girls who were attending Camp Mystic in the town of Hunt near the Guadalupe River.
In Kerrville, Texas, I'm Maribel Gonzalez.
On Sunday, we learned that Georgia Congressman Buddy Carter's 11-year-old twin granddaughters were at Camp Mystic when water rose rapidly, trapping dozens of girls and washing away entire cabins. The girls made it out safety, but one of their young cousins, 9-year-old Janie Hunt, was killed. The congressman says the wait to hear if his granddaughters were safe was agonizing.
I was actually in a parade in Forsyth in Cumming, Georgia, and I got a call from my son who was very upset and told me what was going on. And of course, immediately I started praying and didn't cease praying until we found out they were okay. There was a period of time when we didn't know what their status was.
Flash flooding also impacting central Texas this weekend as heavy rain continues to fall throughout that region as well. According to officials, at least 6 people have been confirmed dead in Burnett and Travis counties. At last check, 13 people are missing in Travis County, and in Burnett County, crews there are searching for Marble Falls Area Volunteer Fire Department Chief Michael Phillips, who was swept away in floodwaters. A person from a nearby nursing home is also missing. Governor Greg Abbott called the damage nothing more than extraordinary devastation and added that operations are continuing day and night. The governor declared Sunday a day of prayer in Texas in response to the flooding. The deadly floods in Texas are the latest reminder of how quickly the weather can change and how fast it can change your life. We will keep updating you on the recovery efforts, and we will keep the entire state of Texas in our thoughts. With your Weather Impact Report, I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss.